Today we're going to go over Misty, see where we ended up on Friday. Then we're going to look at my updated spreadsheet, and then we will fill in the new distribution amounts that we did earn on Friday. So make sure you stick around to the end. Hello my friends, this is Legend. Today we're going to take a quick look to see where Misty ended up for this week. We'll also enter in those distributions that we did get paid out for on Friday. I also want to go over my spreadsheet. I've added a few new columns to that I hope helps you to enter in your distributions easier. So let's just go ahead and jump right on in. All right, so we got Misty here pulled up, and as you can see, Misty did close on Friday at $23.52. The high being at about $25.30. And to get a better look at what is to come with Misty, let's look at Mr. All right, so we are looking at Mr. because Mr. is the underlying of Misty. So Misty moves on what Mr. does. And of course, we know that Mr. is pretty much a Bitcoin play. So we will take a look at that because that is what will drive Mr., which will then drive Misty. But let's just look at Mr. for now. And you can see I had that resistance line right here at 403.90. And when we popped up on Thursday, we popped up above that resistance line. And I was stating and hoping that we can use that line now to become more of a support line. And as you can see, on Friday, we did come down. We got close to it and then came back up and ended up closing for the day on Friday at 416.03. So we were actually up $1.65 for Friday. So that is good. Let's look at the MACD here. As you can see, the MACD was kind of coming down a little bit through here, and then it's kind of going parallel here, and we'll see if we can get a nice little turn up on the MACD. The momentum for the MACD is dropping, which that is not a good sign for it to move up. But it could also just be cooling off. The RSI 14 is sitting at 72. So we are getting into the overbought territory. Anything above a 70 on the RSI can be considered in the overbought territory. So we could see this kind of cool down a little bit come next week, but only time will tell. And the RSI 2, which is a very short interval time frame, it's back up to 96. So again, it's back up to being on fire, way overbought on a short time frame. And that might be why we see after hours it went as low as 413. But Monday will be a new day and we will see how that goes. But let's just go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin will, of course, drive Mr., which in the end will drive Misty and help our shares. So Bitcoin, as you can see, we're back at 103K. It is looking like it's trying to trade sideways a little bit. It's got a little bit of a resistance right here at about 104,384. Looks like that was the high on Friday. And as you can see, we keep bumping it right here and kind of bouncing down off of it. So there's a bit of resistance there at around that 104K. So we will see if we can break above that. I've got another line here at about 106. As you can see back here, it looks like that was a pretty strong resistance line here as well. So right now we've got a wee bit of a resistance at that 104 area, but we've got a bigger one at about 106. And we've got the high for Bitcoin being at about 109, almost 109.5K. So we'll see if we can get back up to start testing this 106, and then if we can break that, maybe we're headed to test that 109. That sure would be nice. On the MACD here, you can see we did get that bounce off of that signal line, and it bounced off of it and started going up. The momentum for Bitcoin is increasing. That's a good sign. And as you can see here, the RSI 75, which of course is a bit overbought, right? Anything above 70 is in the overbought territory. So we could start seeing a little bit of cool off, and that could be why you're seeing more of a sideways trading for the last little bit right here, the last day or two. But that's just my opinion. She's still moving, so we'll see what happens as time passes. So with all that said, looks like we might can see a nice movement up on Misty if we can get Bitcoin to start moving right on back up and testing that 106 area. And of course, Mr. should outperform Bitcoin. And of course, Mr. will move up accordingly as well. So we did get paid our distributions on Friday. Now, they won't necessarily show up into my account until Monday, and it's usually the close of Monday. But we do know what that distribution rate is, and we do know how many shares we have for that distribution. So I can go ahead and enter that into my spreadsheet, and that'll also give me the chance to show you what I've changed in the spreadsheet. Okay, so we're looking at my spreadsheet, and this is the one that you've seen for a little while. And if you've downloaded it, this is what yours probably looks like. Well, I've made a couple little changes, not anything dramatic, but I think it will help. So let's look at my new sheet, and I can explain what the differences are. And most of them will be right here in this individual distributions area. Okay, so here we are on my spreadsheet, and this is my new revised spreadsheet. And like I said, it looks very similar to the one you have if you have it, but the distributions area I've adjusted so that you can put in the distribution rate into this column, and then you can enter in the number of eligible shares you have for that distribution rate. Then it will calculate the amount that you've earned at that time. Versus before, we were putting in the date, and then you had to do the calculation to find out how much you actually will have earned that Friday, right? So this is a little bit, I think, easier because you know what the distribution rate per share is, and you should know how many shares you'll have that's eligible for that distribution rate. Now keep in mind that does also matter because you may have, in my case, I have 400 shares, but if 10 of those shares was bought on Thursday on X date, then I cannot count those shares. So I would not have 400 shares as eligible for that distribution. It would be 390 because 10 of those shares was bought at X date. So that part you do have to keep track of, but you should see that also in your broker account, as it should hopefully give you what that distribution rate was and then how many ever shares you had at that distribution rate. But outside of that, you should keep track and know when and how many shares you have that are eligible for that distribution. And it's easy if you just come over here on your entries here, and you can look at the date, and you can check the date for yourself off the website to see if you had purchased it before the X date. And since we get paid and that X date all is on the same week, it's really not that difficult to keep track of. And it only matters if you bought shares on that X date. So you'll have to subtract those shares that are bought on X date and also any date after that, which would be Friday, the pay date, as you would not get and earn the distribution for those shares. So let's just go ahead and update the new information here, as we do know that we are getting paid our distribution, and we got paid on Friday, which is 5/9 of 2025. So I'll enter that here, and then we know that we earned a distribution per the announcement of $2.3734. Okay, and you want to make sure you put in all those numbers into, past the decimal, because that does matter. That is a partial dollar amount that would be multiplied times the number of shares. So if you do not have the right distribution number plugged in here, you won't enter up with the correct amount that you've earned. Okay, and I know I have a total of 400 shares because over here I'm showing a number of shares is 400, and my last purchase was on 5/1. Well, we know we got paid out on 5/9, and the X date was 5/8. So my purchases were all before 5/8. Therefore, I can count all 400 shares. So I'll enter 400 shares into this column. Now keep in mind here, once I hit enter on this 400 shares, it will change my adjusted price per share as my distribution amount will increase. So let's see what that does for us here. Woo! Nice. Check that out. Whoa. So I have earned $949.36, and that gets added to my total distributions I've earned in this column here, which then helps to combat my risk that I have, and therefore that risk divided by the number of shares is going to give me my adjusted price per share, which was $7.08. It is now $4.71 because I just earned $1,000, close to it, $950, you might as well say, that gets applied to my capital that I have invested. And then of course my premiums I've been earning as well. All of that's coming out and going back into my pocket. And now my adjusted price per share, $4.71. Whoa, that is awesome. That is awesome. And why is that great? Well, because the quicker I can get that price down to zero, the quicker I will have paid off my shares in Misty. And then I can continue to buy Misty with the distributions that I earned, and it be no risk to me. The only thing that I would be looking at losing at that point would be my potential gains, because I would be rolling my potential gains back into Misty if I choose to do so. That's not money out of my pocket. It's actually YieldMax money that I'm using to buy more shares. Now, if I don't, of course, it's money in my pocket. But if I'm looking to help to increase the number of shares, then I can do so, right? I can do that with those distributions. And yes, I can do that now as well, but that does slow down and extend out that payback period. So really, my way of doing this is to try to speed up and reduce my risk, preferably down to zero risk, and then I can just earn those distributions free and clear. So super excited about that, guys. Super excited. I got a great average price per share of $4.71. If I was to sell my shares at the current price, I will gain a total of $7,523.77. Now that's gain. I mean, that's exciting. Love to see it. Love the fact that my share price, my real share price, is at $4.71. And yes, that is meaning that I am using my distributions and my premium to bring down the cost that I have invested. But once all of this equals my total invested, then I'm at a break even, right? I am at a break even. But what happens at break even? Any money that comes in is now 100% gains, right? It's all free and clear. So I'm looking forward to that. So anyway, so let's just look. If you have a spreadsheet that you do use, then definitely use that, right? Use that to help calculate your adjusted price per share, because that is something that you should know. That will help you know when you have got the return back of your investment, even if that is not your plan. It's still a good thing to know. But if you do not have a sheet, then you're more than welcome to download this sheet. This sheet here is available and will be in the description, and I'll also pin it to the top of the comments so that you can have access to this sheet as well. When you download from that link, this sheet, you will see at the very beginning a download your copy, because when you download it, it will be a view-only sheet. In that view-only sheet, you'll need to make a copy. So I have this at the first tab is how to make your copy. And if you're on the computer, It's pretty simple. It's just file, make copy. And as you can see here, I can go file, make copy. Right there it is. And what that will do, that will give you an editable copy of this booklet here. So you'll get all of these tabs will be in that copy. You can delete the tabs, you can change them, you can redo them, whatever you want to do. It will be your sheet to adjust, enter in your information however you want to handle it. The main thing is just have fun. And of course, if you're using your phone, you can download your copy from the phone by hitting those three buttons at the top, three little dots, then it's share and export, and then make a copy. Now, granted, using spreadsheets on your phone may not be the easiest way to handle it. But if you just are downloading your copy, that's how to do it. But it is much easier on a bigger screen because, as you know and seen, there's a lot of information on that page. I also have a notes page here. And then this notes page, it kind of goes through a little bit of what each column is on that spreadsheet and gives you details and descriptions of that. Then you will see the simple stock tracker sheet. And you'll be able to either enter it in as Misty, or you can use it for PLTY, or you can use it for Microsoft. Whatever you want to use it for, you can use it as you feel led to do. And you would just simply start by hitting the stock ticker blank here, and your information will be filled in on all these gray cells here. The gray cells is the user information. That's what you enter in, and that's where you enter it in at. So the first thing you would want to do is enter your ticker symbol. And so for this one, we'll just enter in Misty, and when you hit enter, it brings up the current price. And then at this point, this is when you would enter in your number of shares, the buy price that you purchased each share at. So that's just your buy price. And how many shares did you buy at that share price? It will calculate the total capital that you spent, and it will fill in the information up here in this table. Then, of course, if you have a distribution, and for the distributions, it's nice and simple. You enter in your date of the distribution. You enter in the distribution per share price. In our case, it would be that 2.3734, I believe it was. And that is your distribution per share rate. Then how many shares do you have that are eligible for that distribution? And you enter it in there. The white cells here are for the calculations. So it will do the calculations for you. If you type anything in that cell, it will overwrite the calculation. So if you do that, then you'll need to either hit the back button, or you'll need to fix that equation in the cell, or just write in the total amount. Either one, it's just looking for a value, your total amount that you earned for that distribution into that cell or this column here. It'll add it all up. It'll add that number over here to the distributions earned. So that will keep your total amount of distributions earned. Then, if you're selling options on it, and if you're not, then this over here will probably just stay blank. But if you are selling options, then you'd put your date, the date that it expires, and then the type and strike and all this. So you can put a little information in here. All of this is just really text, right? It's just for your information. It doesn't have anything to do with the calculations. The part that does deal with the calculations is the amount earned. So this amount earned here will be a dollar value, and that dollar value that you put in here will be added in to the premium earned. Now, as you can see, I entered in 30 for just an example here, $30, and you can see it still says 0. Well, that's because you also have this button here, and it's options premium earned. And this is, do you want to show that amount? So, do you want to include the premium? Right now it's setting at no, and that's why it's at 0. If I switch this from no and I put it as yes, now you'll see The premium earned over here now is $30 because it's going to add up how many ever distribution amounts that you have earned here in this total column. And it will plug it into here, which will help offset your calculated adjusted capital that you have invested, and therefore your adjusted price per share. Now everything else is zero here, only because I have not shown where I am purchasing a stock or I've purchased any shares. So since I have not purchased any shares, there's no share value here. Therefore, you have no average of your shares, and the capital invested, well, you don't have any because you haven't actually purchased anything. And therefore, you would not technically even have this $30 over here because you don't own the shares. But this is just an example, and you would need to have already purchased some shares and then your premium that you've earned for selling those puts or even selling the call, right? So we'll take that out of this sheet because we're not actually showing anything in this one. This one is just for blank, and I'll keep it as no, as that way you can see what kind of difference that selling puts can do to your overall adjusted price per share average. And I can show you an example of that in the sheet that we do have the information in. So as you can see, with that new distribution that we had earned, we were down to $4.71. But what would it be if I did not sell puts against Misty? Well, it's easy to find out, and I could just switch this to no. It will remove that premium, and it will readjust that price per share. And there you go. Now it's at $6.41. So if I didn't sell any options on Misty here, and I didn't make this money over here by selling options, then my average would still be good. Don't get me wrong, still good. $6.41 for a stock and an ETF that's at $23.52. I mean, I ain't hating that for sure, right? But just by selling those puts, I'm able to decrease my risk at $6.41 per share and decrease it down to $4.71 per share. That's a big difference. And it is something that I enjoy doing. So it's not for everybody, and definitely don't get into options until you fully understand how they work. So again, this is my spreadsheet, and this is the example, and that will also, this one here will also be part of that booklet when you download this sheet from that link. This will be available so that you can use this as an example. But the one that you'll actually fill out, and you can blow this sheet away here if you don't want it, and that's fine, just to keep from getting confused. But I do have it labeled as example for the tab name, but the one you'll actually fill out is the blank one, which is just called the Simple Stock Tracker. And right now it's just Simple Stock Tracker with quotations Misty, but you can change that. If it's not for Misty, change it to PLTY or whatever it is that you want to track. And you'll enter that ticker symbol into that blank up here, and then you'll be able to track your position of that stock for as long as you have it. But just to clean this sheet up, since this will be a blank sheet, I'll just remove that. But that'll be the first thing you do, is enter that ticker symbol and then fill in the number of shares you've purchased at what price. So again, this sheet is available in the description, and it will be pinned at the top of the comments if you do not already have a sheet available that you use to track your position. Now, for the other ones out there who have already downloaded this sheet and you're using it, right? You're using it, but you're using the previous version of this one. And if you would like this one, then that's no problem. If you still have that link, then you should have access to this updated spreadsheet, because I did not change the link. I just changed it and added this information to that sheet. So this will now, from this point on, be the sheet that you would get if you downloaded from that link. But for those out there who have already been using the sheet, you can still get this sheet by simply clicking that same link that was sent to you previously, and you can get this sheet. Or if you still have the shared copy that you have already downloaded in your Google Drive, you should be able to see it from there and just make a new copy. And at that point, you can easily copy and paste from your old sheet right into this one. Or you can just simply retype the information into the new sheet, and you can use this new sheet going forward. And that's the main reason why I didn't make too many changes and I didn't move too much stuff around, just so that for the ones out there who have been supporting my channel and you got this sheet previously, I wanted you to still be able to get the updated version and be able to transfer your existing position of Misty into this new sheet simply by copy and pasting your data right into the same cell blocks, or just retyping it right into this sheet, whichever one is easier for you. But I think the main thing is, if you still have that link, you can get this new sheet, or if you still have the shareable view-only sheet in your Google Drive, then you can make a new copy and adjust it accordingly. So I hope all that made sense. I hope that this new entry for the distributions, I hope that helps and makes things a little simpler to enter in the information and one less thing you've got to calculate. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up right there. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe button and like button. It'd be much appreciated. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, legend out.